7 spine-chilling true stories revealed, sinister secrets uncovered amidst haunted rain. Ambience. The rain lashed against the window, a relentless symphony of chaos that wrapped around Rachel's small home like a tightening noose. Shadows flickered ominously through the dim light, each one curling like fingers around her throat. Tonight's storm felt different, a sinister undertone lurking beneath its cold patter. As a weary single mother, Rachel trudged up the creaking stairs, exhaustion swallowing her whole, but the sight of her 2 children Lily and Ben snuggled beneath mismatched blankets filled her with a fleeting warmth. They were her light, her reason for enduring the long night shifts at the local diner. But outside the comforting bubble of their laughter, an unsettling tension hung thick in the air, clinging to her skin like a shroud. It all began innocently enough, a blurry shape on her doorstep. Drenched and torn, a note held in the grip of the storm, barely legible but chilling enough to stop Rachel in her tracks. "Trust no one," it read. Her heart raced as she glanced around, the neighborhood that had once felt like home now cloaked in darkness. Mrs. Thompson, her once reliable neighbor who watched her children when the diner got busy, seemed to spiral into madness. With shaky handwriting, she continued to leave messages, cryptic phrases that scratched at Rachel's sanity. The first was brushed off, but a second line chilled her bones. "Safety is an illusion. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The storm swelled outside, shadows creeping along the walls, feeding the growing sense of dread. The curtain twitched, a flicker of movement making Rachel gasp. Her mind raced, trying to dismiss her paranoia. But she could hear the whispered words carried in the wind, a thin veil of ghostly recognition. Tossing caution aside, she decided to leave for work. As she did, the curtains in the windows across the street fluttered again, an eerie signal that heightened her awareness. As Rachel stepped into the downpour, thoughts of missing families haunted her. Each empty house with overgrown lawns felt like a warning, echoing through her mind as she approached the diner. The townsfolk were tight-lipped, their faces devoid of warmth. Where once they found unity, now there was disdain. Questions about the recent disappearances met with cold stares or hostile silence. The authorities brushed her off like a nuisance when she sought help, their dismissive tones tightening the coil of isolation around her heart. Then the whispers returned, sharper now, as if the very town conspired against her. She stumbled onto the urban folklore, a creature that prowled the rain-soaked streets, feeding off families, their lives each lost in the storm. Panic clawed at her chest, every instinct screamed to protect Lily and Ben. She had to uncover what was truly happening. Racing back to the house, the storm grew to a frenetic crescendo, swirling the air with fear. A figure emerged in the shadows, a vague silhouette at first, but as Rachel got closer, the darkness cracked open to reveal a familiar face. Instinct screamed at her to flee. In this night of thunder and forgotten trust, she understood the true nature of danger. Not every face is safe, and sometimes, the predator wears the mask of a friend. Her heart raced as she turned to run home, but the figure stepped forward, a haunting question lingering in the air. Would she reach her children before the storm revealed everything hidden in the dark? The rain intensified, hammering down in sheets, drowning out the world around Rachel. Each drop felt like a warning, each gust of wind like a malicious whisper. She sprinted through the downpour, heart pounding, breath shallow. The figure loomed behind her, a dark stain against the raging night. The familiar face twisted in a way that made her stomach churn. "Rachel!" The voice called, sharp and stinging like a lash. "Stop. I need to talk to you." She stumbled, her instincts urging her to run, but curiosity nagged at her feet, heavy as lead. Was it truly him? Just moments away from her children? A reminder of warmth amidst the suffocating dread? Fear waged war in her mind as she hesitated. Don't you care about your kids? He pleaded. I'm trying to help. But help was a dangerous word under this storm's cloak, and Rachel was learning the hard way that trust could cut deeper than a knife. Her instincts screamed at her to flee. She bolted around the corner, sprinting up the creaking stairs to her home, pushing through her front door, heart racing. Inside, the warmth felt deceiving. The air was thick, almost suffocating. She could hear the pitter-patter of the rain against the roof, eerily rhythmic, a perverse lullaby. Rachel hurried into the living room, the shadows dancing menacingly as they flickered violently in response to the storm. Lily. Ben. She called, scanning the room. Panic flooded her when she found only empty blankets, the imprint of her children still visible, but they were gone. Each pulse echoed in her chest like a sinister taunt. Where are you? She shouted, desperation clawing at her throat. Silence. Only the storm filled the void, and suddenly the whispers returned, growing louder, filling the air like smoke. He's coming for you, they said. He's not who he seems. Rachel's heart fractured. She had to find them. She bolted upstairs, the stairs protesting under her frantic steps. Each creak felt intentional, an echo of the warning she desperately needed. It felt like a cage, this house she'd worked so hard to make a home. The shadows twisted into grotesque shapes, and every flicker of light spilled new anxiety into her veins. Opening each door, she called for them again. Each room lay in eerie stillness. Until a faint giggle echoed from the bathroom. Relief and fear collided as she skidded to the door, flinging it open. Inside, the lights flickered erratically, illuminated just enough to catch sight of Lily and Ben, huddled together, wide-eyed. Mommy! They cried, rushing into her arms. The warmth of their bodies against hers filled Rachel with both comfort and dread. Why did you hide? Rachel asked, shaking slightly. Something's wrong outside, Ben whispered, his small voice trembling. We heard him. Rachel's blood went cold. The figure. Had he followed her? Had he come for them? Stay close, she whispered, need coursing through her. Just then, a loud crash echoed from downstairs, reverberating through the walls. The front door slammed violently against the frame, flinging open as if a ghost had rushed in. The wind howled, carrying with it a deep, guttural laugh, a sound that twisted her insides. Rachel steeled herself, holding her children tight, thoughts racing. Outside, shadows danced, but inside, the danger was closer than she ever anticipated. We need to go now. She urged, her voice breaking through the storm's roar. She backed away, retreating into the hallway, fear morphing into instinct. Whatever was out there was here now, and it hungered for more than rain-soaked secrets. Just as she turned, she felt a cool breeze rush past her, leaving an icy chill on her spine that spoke of something lurking in the darkness. The door creaked slowly, as if a force beyond comprehension was pushing it ajar, revealing something so profound in the gloom that Rachel couldn't breathe. She could feel the weight of unseen eyes, heavy and relentless, and knew that whatever stepped in from that storm was coming for them. And just before it engulfed them, she whispered into the dark, "What do you want?" The air seemed to thicken, silence. Crashing down like a thunderbolt, and suddenly, an undeniable answer echoed back, chilling her to the bone. To claim what is mine. The storm howled louder, drowning her scream in chaos, as the shadows draped over her, merging into the heart of darkness. Where would they escape next? What other terrors awaited them just beyond the threshold? For a heartbeat, everything stood still. Rachel held her children close, their breaths mingling with hers, a desperate trio against the chaos at the door. The air crackled with something vile, and the shadows crawled closer, licking at the edges of her vision. The thick darkness burst wide as the door swung inwards, revealing a figure. It was obscured by the downpour, yet somehow it felt like a mirror of her own fears. Less human, more nightmare. Its outline twisted against the lightning flashes, and each crack illuminated the malicious snarl painted across its face. Rachel, it crooned, a mockery of tenderness. You can't hide from me. Her heart thundered in her chest, panic gripping her throat. The children whimpered, sensing the dangerous presence. "Get back!" she shouted, stepping protectively in front of them. The figure paused, its stench like rotting earth mingling with cruel laughter. "I'm home, sweetheart," it hissed, and recognition lanced through Rachel, filling her with dread. This was him, but not the man she once knew. This was the wrath unleashed, every ounce of twisted betrayal embodied in flesh. Before she could think, Rachel grabbed her children and sprinted toward the narrow staircase, the only path left to escape. The figure hissed, its voice slithering through the air like a serpent. "You forget, Rachel. I know every inch of this home, every creak, every shadow." Her feet pounded against the wooden stairs, the steps familiar yet now feeling like they spooled out into an abyss. She could hear its footsteps behind her, unyielding, relentless. As they reached the landing, the children's small hands squeezed tighter around hers. "Mommy, where are we going?" Lily asked, fear coating her voice. "I don't know, baby." Rachel replied, breathless desperation pushing her forward. She darted into the first bedroom she reached, hoping against hope that it might offer some sanctuary. The door clanged shut behind them, and she barricaded it with an old dresser, the wood scraping raw against her palms. "Stay quiet," she urged, pressing her ear against the door. Time stretched, each tick of her heart matching the rhythm of the storm outside. The laughter echoed again, now filling the spaces beneath the door. "You think you can escape me? I'm part of you, your darkest truth. And I will find you." Rachel turned slowly, her eyes meeting Ben's. In that shared glance, they both understood hiding was no longer an option. She felt the weight of her heartbeat pulsating in her ears, a drum of pure terror. "There's a window," she whispered, directing them to the far side of the room. She should not have been surprised that it was locked, but overriding panic pushed her to act fast. She wrestled with the fragile mechanism, each second a gouge of time digging deeper into her resolve. Suddenly, a loud bang shattered her concentration. The door quaked against the dresser, and splinters flew as if the relentless entity was challenging her, mocking her attempts at survival. "Let us go, now," Rachel shouted, reclaiming her voice, urgency blasting through them like a spotlight in a darkened theater. With a final shove, the window creaked open, flinging rain inside like icy knives. She glanced back just once, catching a glimmer of its form erupting into the room, twisted and gnarled. It was lurching, fueled by rage. "Mommy!" Ben cried as reality shifted around her, the peril of the unknown swirling in the storm outside. "Jump!" she yelled, launching herself through the opening, dragging her children behind her. The world outside hit them like a wave, soaking them instantly. They tumbled into the mud, breath escaping in gasps. The shadows from the house loomed tall, cutting through the darkness of the storm, but there was no time to look back. Fumbling the way ahead, Rachel pulled her children along the overgrown path, her heart racing as instinct took over. "Where are we going?" Lily gasped. "Anywhere but here," Rachel replied, her voice almost lost in the cacophony, yet gripping them to their next move. Every raindrop felt like a haunting reminder, a final warning that whatever hunted them was still close, hiding in the shadows, waiting to strike. They plunged deeper into the storm's fury, seeking refuge in a maze of trees as the echoes of the hunt faded behind them. But as a shiver ran down Rachel's spine, the storm whispered cruelly in her ear. This was not over. The hunt had only just begun. What had they unleashed that night? Would they ever be truly free? Rachel's breaths came in ragged gasps as she pulled Ben and Lily deeper into the sheltering shadows of the trees. The wind howled like a restless spirit, whipping the rain into a frenzy. Each drop felt like a cold dagger against her skin, but the chill came less from the storm and more from the terror that licked at the edges of her mind. "Mommy!" Ben's small voice broke through the chaos, shaky and tremulous. "What if he finds us?" She clenched his hand tighter. "He won T. We just have to keep moving." But even as she spoke, doubts gnawed at her. The creature was relentless, a shadow from a past she had thought buried. The thick canopy above shielded them from the worst of the rain, but the darkness enveloped them, wrapping tightly like a shroud. Tree trunks loomed like silent sentinels, their gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal hands. Rachel peered over her shoulder, scanning the dense underbrush behind them. The only sound she could hear was thunder rumbling in the distance, but her heart insisted there was something more, an echo, a whisper, a promise of despair. Over there. Lily pointed to a small clearing, dimly illuminated by sporadic flashes of lightning. Rachel's heart quickened. It was a chance, a break in the horrors that pursued them. Perhaps they could hide, regroup, and think. They stumbled into the clearing, mud squelching beneath their feet. Rachel sank down into the earth, drawing her children close. She cradled Lily against her side, wrapping her arms tight around Ben. The rain pounded harder now, a chaotic symphony, drowning out the whispers of her own dread. "Mommy, I'm scared," Ben whispered, tears mingling with the rain on his cheeks. "I know, sweetheart. Just stay close," she murmured, forcing calm into her voice despite the storm raging within her. The minutes stretched an eternity. Rachel kept peering into the shadows, feeling the weight of unseen eyes. Her mind raced with memories of the horrors that had torn their lives apart, the lost glances, the abandoned trust, the moment when love twisted into something monstrous. She gasped, the realization crashing over her, the figure wasn't just hunting her. It was the very essence of her broken past, a nightmare given form. Then, she heard it, the sound of footsteps. Not the wail of wind or the crash of thunder, but distinct, solid, moving purposefully through the trees. Rachel's heart thundered in her chest as dread washed over her, framing her thoughts with agonizing clarity. "What if he finds us?" Ben whimpered again. "We won't let that happen," Rachel replied, her voice low and fierce. But inwardly, panic clawed at her, a growing monster of uncertainty. She struggled with the reality that their only option was to confront the darkness she thought she could escape. With every second, the footsteps grew closer, the trees standing as their last barrier against the nightmare. Rachel held her breath, feeling the weight of the moment press heavily upon her shoulders. She had to decide. "Mommy?" Lily's voice trembled. "Quiet," Rachel hushed, straining to hear. The laughter had returned, mocking and cruel, floating through the trees like a macabre jest. Suddenly, a flash of lightning illuminated the clearing just enough for her to see them, the twisted figures flanking the edges, more than one. Rachel's chest tightened, panic blooming like a dark flower in her heart. "We need to go," she hissed, urgency exploding in her veins. They sprang to their feet, but before they could move, the shadows surged forward, a fluid mass of terror and rage. Ben and Lily clung to her, their eyes wide with fear. "Run!" Rachel screamed, tearing through the trees as darkness enveloped them, the storm raging louder still. But as they dashed into the night, another horrifying realization struck her. What if the greatest darkness was not the thing chasing them, but whatever had awakened from the depths of her own despair? The deeper they ran, the clearer it became. The haunting laughter echoed from inside her, guiding them toward an unspeakable truth. What would they find if they stopped running? With each step, "I can feel its grip tightening," Rachel thought, her mind spiraling as the darkness closed in, and then something caught her eye, something glowing faintly in the distance. What lay ahead? Would it offer salvation or lead them to darker depths of horror? Rachel steered the kids toward the glimmering light, a beacon through the abyss. The storm pelted them, fierce and unyielding, but that faint glow pulled at her like a siren's call. It flickered, teasing her with hope, but dread settled deep within her bones. What kind of light would shine in a place so overrun by darkness? "Stay close," she urged, her voice edged with urgency. The children stumbled alongside her, their small feet racing through mud that threatened to swallow them whole. Each flash of lightning cast eerie shadows that twisted and curled, grotesque versions of their own terror lurking just beyond reach. The laughter faded momentarily, leaving a heavy silence that felt foreboding, thick like fog. For an instant, she allowed her mind to drift, imagining safety warm blankets, the safety of her home before the thought ricocheted back. Home was the last place she could think of now. Home had become the source of her torment. As they sprinted toward the light, the shadows pulsated, rhythmically matching the thudding of her heart. She stole a glance behind her. Nothing tangible loomed there, but the air felt charged, alive, sentient. The whispers were back, swirling around like a malevolent wind. "Mommy, what is that?" Lily asked, her voice barely above the sound of the wind. Rachel swallowed hard. "I don't know, sweetie. Just keep running." Part of her wished they could just stand still, to confront the shapes that whispered and laughed, but she knew their only chance lay in movement. They broke into a clearing that opened up before them, an expanse of grass illuminated by the glowing light. Rachel froze. It was a grave marker, ancient and twisted, the inscription barely legible but glowing softly. Shapes flickered around it, indistinct, nebulous, threading through the air as if time itself had stretched around them. Pulses of dread surged through her and she felt Ben squeeze her hand tighter. "I don't like this, Mommy." The wind shifted, shifting the grave marker toward the shadows. In that moment, under the electric flicker of lightning, she caught sight of dozens of eyes, glistening yellow through the dark underbrush. They watched her, unmoving, unblinking, embodying all that haunted her nightmares. The laughter crescendoed, echoed by wet voices, each syllable dripping with malice. "Turn back." A raspy voice hissed from the depths of the woods. "You don't belong here." "No!" Rachel shouted, finding her resolve. "We're not turning back. We will not go back to him." The ground rumbled, vibrating underfoot, a warning that her defiance stirred something ancient within the shadows. The glow from the grave marker intensified, flickering in rhythm with her heart's racing tempo. What was it trying to show her? What secret lay buried beneath the years? She turned towards the grave marker, struggling against the pull of anguish that sought to drown her. Maybe the answers she sought were buried beneath her own fears and regrets, like roots tangled in the soil, clawing upward, desperate for light. "Stay back." Rachel urged her children, stepping protectively in front of them. "Whatever this is, it can't have you." The laughter morphed into a ghastly cacophony, filling her with a paralyzing fear. The children trembled against her, their small bodies quaking. Rachel's fists clenched at her sides as she felt the darkness swirling at the edges of her mind again, a reminder of her past that refused to let go, and then she knew. The glowing marker wasn't just a sentinel. It was a gateway, a key to the hidden horror that had been chasing them, tying them back to everything Rachel had tried to escape. "Mommy?" Lily whimpered softly as the last remnants of light flickered. Rachel took a trembling step forward, ignoring the grasp of shadowy hands clawing at her. "We have to find out what it wants," she said, breathlessly. With one final glance at the children, she steeled her nerves. Beneath the laughter and the shadows, she felt the tides of her own darkness swell again, waiting to be unleashed. What would she uncover there? The marker pulsed, its glow flickering like a heart alive, beckoning, dragging her toward whatever lay beyond. As she took a step toward the light, a voice echoed back, sharp as glass, full of bitterness. "You think you can escape your past? You are mistaken." What awaited her on the other side? Would she finally lay her demons to rest, or had she unraveled a thread that would tear her world apart? The air was thick with an unnatural chill, wrapping around Rachel like a serpent poised to strike. She stood at the edge of the grave marker's light, heart racing, mind filled with the whispers of the past echoing through the storm. The children clung to her, their faces pale and drawn, eyes wide with fear. It struck her like a punch to the gut, the weight of their terror, intertwined with her own. "Mommy!" Ben's voice quavered, a tiny gasp forced through trembling lips. Ignoring the sensation of icy fingers brushing against her ankles, Rachel stepped further into the glow. The grave marker seemed to pulse, its soft illumination illuminating an inscription. Words twisted and warped, forming fleeting shadows of meaning. She strained to read it, squinting as darkness threatened to blind her. Musty sense of decay and earth clawed at her senses, and with each breath, her stomach churned. "Keep your eyes on me," she commanded, forcing her voice to remain strong. The shadows writhed and recoiled at her words, but she could sense their hunger intensify, yearning for something far more substantial than mere whispers of fear. Suddenly, the ground beneath her feet cracked like ice splitting in winter, fissures spidering outward. One quick look down, and she saw them, the empty eye sockets of buried things peering up at her, jaded memories clawing desperately for release. A panic seized her, and yet the lure of the marker tugged her forward, sweet like honey and dangerous as a venomous bite. Lily screeched, the sound slicing through the air. "Mommy! It's moving!" Rachel felt it then, the ground quaking, solid earth trembling in response to something waking inside it. What lay beneath was coming alive, poised to break free. She spun around, her heart racing. Lightning-illuminated shapes creaking and swaying just beyond the light, grotesque figures flickering in an array of lost souls. Their faces twisted in a morbid display of anguish and wrath, a testament to the cruelty of time. "Run, now!" Rachel shouted, urgency now driving her voice higher. She grabbed the children's hands, but instead of retreating, a deafening roar echoed through the clearing, stealing their breaths. "No!" The mocking voice from the void boomed, vibrations rattling her bones. "You cannot flee your fate." Time folded. The light surged, radiating more fury than warmth, and in that moment, she was struck by a bone-chilling realization. This grave marker wasn't merely a sentinel, it was a harbinger. As if in response, the laughter spiraled back, hollow and echoing, each chuckle drenching her with despair. Before she could consider her next course of action, shadows lunged, dragging her backward. Rachel gritted her teeth, summoning every ounce of strength. "I want to let you have them." The grip of darkness tightened, but she refused to release her hold on her children. "Mommy!" Ben cried, panic piercing through the layers of chaos surrounding them. The laughter morphed into a fierce cackle, rattling her resolve. With eyes ablaze, Rachel lifted her chin defiantly. "If you want us, you'll have to fight me first." The words erupted from her, filled with years of anger, grief, and the desire to break free from her past. The shadows recoiled, a hiss of disbelief enveloping her. "No!" That chilling voice snarled again, but in the depths of its fury, she sensed fear, the fear of a truth long buried. The light flared again as if it sensed her determination, illuminating the unmarked graves around them. Shapes began to surface, creeping into the light, specters of lives lost, cries of those who had come before. Had they too dared to confront the shadows? Were they a warning or a call to resilience? "Mommy!" Lily's fingers tightened around hers, a surge of warmth sparking against the frost of terror. With the past gnashing at her heels, Rachel realized the choice laid before her. Would she dive into the heart of the darkness, or turn her back on what threatened to consume them all? As she teetered on the precipice of despair and determination, she felt the earth tremble again, not in fear, but in anticipation. The shadows thrummed with excitement. "What waits on the other side?" she whispered, her heart beating fiercely against the oppressive silence. Seconds felt like hours, the weight of her decision looming over her like the storm above. And then, the ground shook violently beneath them. Would she uncover the truth or find herself ensnared in the very horrors she sought to escape? The ground erupted, throwing Rachel off balance as the shadows lunged forward, allowing a chorus of anguished voices to seep into the open air. She felt a twisted presence snaking around her, pulling at her legs, urging her to conform to despair. Panic surged as her heart slammed painfully against her ribcage. "Hold tight!" she barked, gripping Ben and Lily as fierce tremors tried to wrench them apart. The laughter, the maliciously disembodied laughter, grew louder, pouring over the clearing like a rushing tide, seeking to drown her defiance. Rachel's surroundings blurred, consumed by a chaotic mix of light and darkness. She could barely make out shadowy figures swirling just outside the grave marker's light, flickering in and out like dying flames, each a testament to a past that longed to reclaim itself. "Run!" Ben screamed, his voice cutting through the terror as he tugged frantically at her hand. Rachel exchanged a quick glance with her children, their faces pale, drawn tight against fear. They were frightened, but their trust in her was radiating like the faint light around them. She could not betray that trust. Not yet, not yet, she whispered, forcing herself to find clarity amidst chaos. The very air sparked with strange electricity, filling her with an uneasy resolve. Rachel took a deep breath, her mind racing. We're not alone. The shadows hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty rippling through their malevolence. She sensed it, a whisper of hope in the air, a glimmer of strength. The faces of the lost swayed closer now, eyes dull but pleading. They were trapped like her, tainted by vengeance or regret, desperate for release. No. The echoing voice cracked like thunder, a wave of fury washing over her, as the presence surged forward violently, pushing from the edges of darkness. They are part of you, just as I am. The ground shook again, a churning swell of dirt and shadows rising like a monstrous tide, and suddenly Rachel understood. This was not just a battle for her children. It was a fight for her very soul, for the lives she thought she'd left behind. Would they feed on her fear or let her forge a different truth? With each passing second, the dark's insatiable hunger intensified, pulling her closer, closer towards the darkness that beckoned her. No. She wouldn't be engulfed. Enough. She roared, voice booming out as she pulled on the light surrounding her, channeling her love for Ben and Lily into a weapon against the encroaching horror. You don't own us. As her words tore through the chaos, the grave marker blazed with a sudden brilliance, golden and warm, repelling the shadows like a barrier. Those lost souls dimmed, their cries morphing from horrific wails to anguished pleas for her to remember them. Mommy. Lily's voice pierced through weakly, breaking Rachel from her mounting resolve. The shadows began to flicker, faltering under the intensity of the light. Stand firm. Rachel urged her children, feeling the peculiar energy surge through her. She reached a trembling hand toward the flickering glow of the grave marker, envisioning the strength of memories. The joy of laughter, the warmth of love whispered through the storm like a comforting lullaby. The ground trembled violently, shadows deepened, and the spectral faces twisted in rage. You think you can fight your fate? You think light can defeat darkness? Rachel felt fear gnawing at the edges, but through it, a flicker of clarity emerged. I define my fate. With a fierce yell, she pressed forward, drawing the children into the circle of warm light, their hearts pounding in unison with hers. We're stronger than this. As the light surged, the contours of reality shifted. The shadows writhed and hissed, becoming chaotic forms desperate to cling onto something, anything. And then they recoiled as if struck, the air around them crackling with energy. Suddenly, the earth shuddered again beneath attack from within. But was it the graves that quaked, or had something inside them awoken? The air felt electric, heavy with expectation, and Rachel could almost hear the whispers of long-lost souls, their secrets weaving a web of truths and lies around them. We have to go. Ben cried, his fear becoming palpable as darkness swirled rapidly around them. They were fighting against something older and bigger than their understanding, something that thrived on chaos, but as Rachel pulled her children harder into the light, she sensed that the dark was rife with secrets, and therein lay truths yet to be uncovered. What waits for us if we fight back? She gasped, breathless, clutching her children close. As the shadows converged, a visceral scream reverberated through the ground, shaking the very core of her being. The answer loomed on the horizon like a monstrous thunderhead, and she couldn't help but wonder. What hideous truth lay in wait beneath their feet? As things began to shift violently toward them, she braced for the unknown, terrified yet emboldened. Would they escape, or was this only the beginning? The shadows thickened, swirling quicker, an ink-black storm that screamed of desperation. Rachel stumbled back as an unseen force yanked at her legs, urging her to sink into the ground. She held on tightly to Ben and Lily, their small bodies pressed against her, beating hearts mirroring her own frantic rhythm. Don't look away. She shouted, her voice cracking under pressure. "We need to stay together." But Ben was shrinking, lost in the chaos around them. "Mommy, what's happening?" His wide eyes darted nervously at the dark figures that howled and clawed at the air, the shadows coiled like vipers, hissing threats that seeped into her mind. "Join us," they beckoned, taunting. "You know the truth. You can't hide from what you've done." Rachel's breath caught. What had she done? 1,000 memories rushed back to her. Buried secrets spilled forth, malice twisted with regret. The memories twisted like the shadows, crawling up her spine. "No!" she cried out, tearing her gaze from the pulsating darkness. "You don't own my past." She gripped the children tighter, her determination igniting a flicker of warmth, but the darkness cackled in response. "You cannot escape your sins." The figures lunged forward, each one more grotesque than the last, faces warped in despair, mouths agape in silent screams. A chorus of agony drowned her thoughts, smothering her resolve. It felt as if the very ground sought to swallow them whole. "Mommy." Lily's voice trembled, a fragile thread in the tempest. The innocence in her child's eyes shot a dagger through Rachel's heart, anchoring her with fierce clarity. She couldn't let this darkness take them. "I will fight." The air crackled again, a low hum building into a thunderous roar. Rachel's heart aligned with the pulsing light of the grave marker, the source of hope right before her eyes. Each breath felt electric as she called upon every fragment of love she had, laughter, warmth, all those moments that made them a family. "I command you to leave," she shouted, defiance surging. Light erupted from her, spilling out like molten gold, igniting the surroundings. The shadows drew back, screeching as the brightness scorched its skin. Suddenly, the earth trembled violently once more, but this time, it was different. Something alive stirred beneath them. The roots of ancient trees twisted, tearing through the ground as if trying to break free. Desperation clawed at Rachel, but she pressed on. "We must push through." In that moment, the shadows solidified into a grotesque formation, a figure looming tallest among them, its face obscured in darkness yet somehow familiar. "You can't win, Rachel. You belong to us." It screamed, a voice that sent icy tendrils down her spine. Memories bubbled up unbidden, her past, her failures, the secrets she had buried deep. It was all rushing back, hammering away at her sanity. "No, no." She fought against it. "That part of me is gone." But as her protest rang out into the bitter air, a flicker of something beyond comprehension blossomed within the shadows, a monstrous truth revealing itself. A reflection of herself twisted in the darkness, one she had long tried to forget. "Do you see now?" The figure grinned, the shadows wrapping tighter around Rachel. "You cannot run from yourself." Panic surged as the form grew, pressing in closer, the air thick with despair. The children shrank back against her, their tiny bodies quaking as terror painted their faces. Rachel leaned down, whispering fiercely to them, "No matter what, we hold on to the light. We will find our way." But doubt gnawed at her. The shadows had tapped into something deep, something that seemed impossible to combat. Would the light hold? Then, before she could brace herself, the ground erupted again, not with despair this time, but with a blinding flash that illuminated the dark. Whispers grew louder, swirling around them like a storm. "Mommy!" Lily's terrified whisper broke through. The shadows shrieked in fury but were momentarily halted, swallowed by that brilliant blare. What if it wasn't enough? As light and dark clashed around them, Rachel realized. It was not about the fight against the shadows, but the fight within herself. The taste of truth lingered, bitter but intoxicating. This moment felt critical. What would she find on the other side of this unfolding chaos? Would she uncover her own darkness, or would the light deliver them all? Rachel braced for the unknown, the shadows screeching in protest as reality warped again, and terror hung in thick tension. The shadows clawed at her mind, unraveling her very essence. What would happen when the veil finally lifted? Would the truth free her, or doom them all? The light pulsed, blinding and hot, a promise of salvation that wrapped around Rachel like a lifeline. The shadows recoiled, screaming as if they were sensitive to the radiance. It was almost too bright, the kind of light that threatened to expose everything. Lily clung to Rachel's side, her small body trembling. Ben squeezed his mother's hand harder, his knuckles white against Rachel's fading strength. The familiar faces of the dark figures began to dissolve, swallowed by the brilliance before them. But still, that looming figure remained a dark silhouette, features indistinct, yet entirely recognizable. "Stay with me. Focus on the light." Rachel barked, though her heart felt heavy with uncertainty. The figure taunted her, a vague semblance of a smile curling its lips. "You think you can protect your children from the truth?" it hissed. "You cannot save them if you cannot save yourself." The ground beneath them heaved again, each tremor vibrating through her bones. Rachel could feel the dread gnawing at her, each pulsating wave filled with whispers of her past as guilt mixed with fear. Memories clawed their way into the forefront of her mind, images of faces she had hurt, words left unsaid, and promises broken. Among the chaos, one figure stood out, the face of her younger self, eyes filled with dreams and naivety, starkly contrasted by the shame creeping in presence like a thick fog. As the outer edges of the light flickered, Rachel's resolve crackled just as her energy waned. Panic surged anew, tangible and thick. "We will find a way out," she declared, though desperation quivered in her voice. The shadows press in closer, the air suffocating, the cries around them morphing into a shrill symphony of desperation. The brightness began to wane, and with it, the cocoon of protection surrounding them. Rachel gritted her teeth, desperation rising. "Remember the light, kids." She felt the pull of darkness, a treacherous whisper brushing against her, urging her to yield. "Remember the laughter, the warmth. Hold on." In that moment, a flicker of life ignited inside her, the love she had for Ben and Lily, an unbreakable bond that anchored her to the light. The sacred pulse of hope reignited, pouring into the space between them. She lifted her chin, drawing upon every ounce of love, every moment savored, infusing it into a surge of lavender brilliance. "Leave us alone," Rachel screamed, her voice slicing through the chaos. The shadows shrieked, yet the blinding light erupted anew, a wave crashing against the dark figures that writhed in agony. "What if it isn't enough?" Lily's small voice pierced the noise. "What if it takes you too, Mommy?" Something about her daughter's question struck a chord deep within Rachel, intertwining love with her fears. The darkness flickered for just a heartbeat, uncertainty rippling through its form. For every sin Rachel had carried, there were twofold moments of joy, stitched together in the fabric of their lives. But as the truth surged like tidal waves, drowning the suffocating grasp of darkness, the looming figure took a single step forward. Its features solidified, grotesque in their mockery, twisting into something that bore resemblance to Rachel's own past self but twisted with guilt and regret. "You think the light will save you? It's a lie." It screamed, and with that, the ground trembled again. Rachel felt the earth shifting beneath her feet, drawing her downwards like quicksand. The figure's smirk widened, stretching beyond humanity, a cruel, lurking shadow promising torment. "Mommy." Ben's voice entered the thick atmosphere, a final call of desperation that echoed his childlike faith yet wavering in betrayal in lieu of the impossible truth. Rachel's grip faltered as darkness tugged at her heart, dragging her toward the abyss of her own making. "Fight it. Fight with everything," she urged, though doubt coursed through her. Was this fight even hers to win? Were Ben and Lily destined to fall into the shadows forever, caught in a battle against their own mother's regrets? The light flickered, then dimmed, an eerie silence settled, and reality itself began to warp. The shadows swirled, reshaping the landscape, each heartbeat echoed like a countdown. What lay beyond this emerging darkness? With each painful breath, Rachel realized the truth might be more harrowing than any shadow could conjure. Would she succumb to the depths of her own darkness? Or would that truth be her salvation? The shadows surged and twisted in a chaotic frenzy, the specter of Rachel's past looming large and menacing. The laughter that echoed around her transformed into a cacophony of taunts, each whisper digging deeper into her heart. Time felt suspended, caught in a relentless grasp as the memories of her failures and fears swirled chaotically. "Mommy!" Lily cried, her small hands trembling against Rachel's skin. "Hold on to me!" Rachel shouted, voice hoarse, yet filled with fierce resolve. She couldn't allow herself to break. Not now. Not here. The light from the grave marker flickered, desperately trying to maintain its presence against the gnawing dark. Each flash illuminated the grotesque faces of the shadows that circled them, their hollow eyes filled with twisted malice. Rachel felt their desires reach out, an insatiable hunger for her despair, but in that moment, her heart swelled with the knowledge of love that she and her children shared. "Remember our memories," she urged, squeezing Lily and Ben's hands. "Our laughter, our warmth. They're stronger than any darkness." With every ounce of will, Rachel focused on her children's faces, drawing strength from their innocence. She remembered their brightest moments, the first birthday parties, the vacations, the quiet nights filled with stories that wrapped around them like a blanket. It was a glorious tapestry woven from love, something the shadows could never comprehend. And she pivoted, a fierce resolve igniting a wildfire within. "We will fight back!" She howled into the void. The shadows recoiled momentarily, screeching in fury. Fear was palpable in their protests. The grave marker surged with renewed vigor, casting radiant light into the swirling darkness. Rachel took a step forward, fully aware that the battle ahead was more than just against the noise or the creeping dread, it was against everything that sought to define her, the essence of her pain and guilt. "Together!" she shouted, her voice roaring above the chaos, clinging to the love within the hearts of her children. "We are more than what you say we are." And with that declaration, a pulse of light erupted from her, and she felt the shadows shriek, visibly recoiling. Lily and Ben held tighter, feeling the energy of their mother's fierce spirit. The darkness began to writhe and twist more violently, trapped by the very light it had sought to extinguish. "Fight with me!" Rachel shouted again, their bond pressing out against the swirling emptiness. It was igniting the warmth in her chest as reality twisted. As the shadows pressed in closer, their forms began to dissipate, swallowed by the glowing brilliance that surged in response to Rachel's resolve. "Mommy! Look!" Ben gasped, pointing to a doorway of light breaking through the thinning shadows. It shimmered like stardust, offering sanctuary between the chaos. Wrapping her children tightly in her arms, she raced toward it, each heartbeat synchronizing with the pulse of strength that built around them. "We can do this!" she asserted fiercely, a spark of hope igniting within the storm of their fears. With one final leap, Rachel burst through the radiant entrance, pulling Ben and Lily along with her, and suddenly, the ground fell away beneath them. Everything shifted in an instant. The cacophony of voices faded into silence, replaced by the comforting sound of rain falling on the ground like a gentle whisper. They landed softly on grass, daylight breaking through the storm clouds. The world felt surreal yet deeply vivid, rich with color and life. Breathless, Rachel looked around, taking in the familiar sight of their garden, the flowers swaying gently in the breeze, the sun casting warmth across the grass. What just happened?" Ben asked, eyes filled with wonder. "We faced the darkness and embraced the light," Rachel whispered, hands still tightly gripped around Lily's and Ben's. She felt a weight lift from her shoulders. They had triumphed over the fears that had haunted them. She had confronted the deepest parts of her soul and emerged into the light. As the children giggled, it echoed like music to Rachel's ears, a beautiful affirmation of life and hope. They were free, and she had faced her demons, not just for herself but for them. "From this point on," Rachel said softly, as she knelt down to look into her children's eyes, "we will always cherish our light. No matter what darkness may come, we'll face it together." And just like that, they embraced, three hearts bound together by love, forged through chaos, realizing that sometimes, true power lay not in escaping the darkness, but in transforming it through light. Rachel stood, a renewed spirit gleaming within her heart, knowing their journey had only strengthened their bond. As the warmth of the sun enveloped them, she realized there was no need to look back. They were adrift in each other, a new dawn blooming ahead, expansive and limitless. This fight had ended, but their story, filled with hope and love, had just begun, and if you love this story, you've got to support us immediately. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on our next exclusive tales. Smash that like button now to unleash the algorithm and help others find this series. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Let's connect, and don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this powerful conclusion. Together, let's spread this light far and wide.